Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. My name's Connor from 905 Review. You're tuning into our series, Give This a Spin, where I recommend you guys some of my favorite albums. Today we're looking at the 2020 release Atlas Vending by METZ. Nearly every article will say that the noise rock trio are from Toronto, where they are currently based. However, a deep dive would prove that they actually formed in Ottawa. I was first made aware of METZ when a song from their 2012 self-titled debut album ended up on one of the fictional radio stations in the game Grand Theft Auto 5. They would release 2 albums after this, the latter of which was even recorded by noise legend and maybe my favorite producer of all time, Steve Albini, before the release of Atlas Vending. And this would be produced by Ben Greenberg and engineered by Seth Manchester, who's also done work with fellow noise rockers' daughters. So with that quick intro down, let's get into the thick of it. We kick things off with Pulse. Literally, as aside from some unsettling background noise, a constant thumping bass kick is all that's heard until some scratchy guitars join in. I read that originally while recording this, they just used a drum machine for it, which admittedly would have been easier than needing drummer Hayden Menzies to just keep this consistency going for 4.5 minutes, but what are drummers for, right? Solid, hard-hitting album opener. This is followed by the quicker-paced Blind Youth Industrial Park, another real hard rocker. While the band's sound has been compared to many early 90s noise rock groups, the chorus on this actually made me think of kind of like some Songs for the Deaf era Queens of the Stone Age, maybe mostly because of the backing vocals in it. And apparently the song barely made the cut to be on the album. A surprise, I would say. They keep the awesome in-your-face drums rolling with the mirror, and when the guitar comes striking in, it brings the song to another level. The song sounds to me like a narrative of the brainwashing done by television and the kind of people who will just regurgitate whatever it is that they hear. The second longest song on the album, at seconds over 5 minutes, it feels like that drain after an adrenaline rush when all the instruments just cut out abruptly and you're just left with the silence at the conclusion. This of course doesn't last long before the next track, No Ceiling, comes on. With its fast pace and minuscule length at only 1.5 minutes, it feels like a traditional punk song. However, that's not what I came here for, and as such, I consider it the weakest on the album. Going for the positive, negative, positive sandwich approach, however, the song was written by singer Alex Edkins about the joy of having a son. Wholesome. And ending the first side of Atlas Vending, we arrive at Hail Taxi. While it starts off pretty hard, they actually not really soften up. We'll say they become less abrasive at the chorus. I especially love the second verse, seemingly asking how much compromise is necessary in your life, but more so compromise with people above you in society. The song feels for a second or two as if it's ending, before cutting into a bridge where Edkins assures you he won't settle for anything. The song's outro, ending just like that part that segued into the bridge, makes for what I find to be a great way to close an album side. And starting the second side of the album just as well as the first side ended is Draw Us In, just as METZ does, with a guitar that is not really funky, but as swayful as noise rock gets, I suppose. As this intro progresses, they amp things up more as that same Manchester engineering for daughters becomes apparent. Lyrically, it sounds to me like having a girl who you made it through some real tough times with, whether that's someone that you're still with now and you're just admiring all you've been through, or somebody who you're no longer with and you're just kind of reflecting back on it. And a personal anecdote from myself here. As you may be aware, I make these yearly Canadian Football League montage highlight reels that I try to use Canadian artists' music over. And that's actually how I got back into METZ, is listening through this album, trying to find a song to use for one of those videos. And I was kind of close to using this one, but I figured I would have been better off using something easier to get into. Still one of my favorites off the album though. This is followed by the 7th track, Sugar Pill. And not too much unlike my interpretation of the earlier track, The Mirror, this one's about addiction and mindlessness, only to social media instead of television. And the Sugar Pill comparison to this, I vote as brilliant. The very first line on the Wikipedia page for placebos is that they are a sham substance or treatment designed to have no known therapeutic value. No known therapeutic value, like scrolling through accounts of more attractive people with more attractive things in more attractive places. And why? Just because phones are so handy, they're there, and there's nothing better to do while you're waiting in line? I'm not even anti-social media, but I get the message, and, you know, a lot of people get down about that sort of thing. Next up is Framed by the Comet's Tail, and this one's actually pretty laid back, at least in comparison. I like it. It's definitely moody. They get a solid jam going to close out on, interrupted only by a brief final verse. This then brings us to Parasite, naturally opening with some killer drums to go with all sorts of frantic sound. I never actually paid too much attention to the lyrics before, but they're actually kind of haunting and go pretty well with the music. Is he alluding to like ghouls or zombies or something? He says that he hears voices from the sewer grates at night and reflects on how interesting it is that there's so many people you pass by in your lifetime who you'll never interact with, maybe never even see again. Yet all the same, there's so many people who go missing and are never found. And he says, whoever these bastards are, they're getting faster. Or who knows, maybe his house is just infested with rodents or something. And we close off with, hands down, the best song on the record, A Boat to Drown In. I got so roped into this song. I mean, finishing a shift at midnight, cruising down a barren, dimly lit highway home to this, it's common for me. I absolutely love this one, despite kind of like Framed by the Comet's Tail standing out from the overall sound of the rest of the album. Halfway through, the song develops into this extensive jam, which I could only imagine seeing live, and is perfectly summarized by this one comment on the music video for it, which I strongly recommend peeping out. Man, I feel like I can't express it enough. This might be my song for all of 2020. Atlas Vending was released through label Sub Pop on CD, cassette, and a couple different vinyl variants. There's of course just the standard black, but two rare North American ones are a gray silver pearlescent and a lagoon one, which is just kind of a greenish blue mixture. The European exclusive was a pink one, and the Canadian exclusive, as seen here, is a milky clear with a black swirl, which I actually just picked up at a Sunrise Records, so shout out them. The album didn't make that big a splash upon its release. It got generally positive reviews, but nothing outstanding. There's certainly a blueprint to be found throughout this album. These big pounding drums, harsh guitars that will chime in but be pushed out of focus or furthermore just halt altogether to allow big open room for these harsh, raspy, yelling vocals. While I would say Atlas Vending does suffer from being formulaic, I really can't complain too much because I'm a fan of the formula. I actually don't know what to grade this. I know, some critic, huh? But you know what? I'm feeling an A- grading. The album really kicks you in the teeth. There's so much good stuff on here, but it really lacks more groundbreaking songs like A Boat to Drown In, which is the uncontested best on here. But those have been my thoughts on Canadian METZ's fourth release, Atlas Vending. I appreciate you sticking around, and I hope to see you again. You take it easy. But real quick, before we take off, wow, sorry, I'm already out of breath. What were your thoughts on Atlas Vending by METZ? You let me know down below. As I said, appreciate you tuning in. It's always a blessing. Hope to see you again. Hope you're doing well, more importantly. You take it easy.